So what is going on, guys? CG here today and welcome back to the channel. Now, as you all know, E3 is literally just around the corner and I wanted to make some videos about it. So today we are going to be diving into Ubisoft official announcements and all the stuff that they've announced and ready for E3 that is upcoming. So I'm not going to give anything away. You guys are going to be seeing some gameplay of some of the older games they've made in sort of like preparation for the sequels, and some of the trailers that they have released, and potentially screenshots as well. So without any further ado, let's just get straight into the official announcements. So let's kick things off straight away with The Crew 2. So for those of you who never experienced the original Crew game, allow me to quickly bring you up to speed. The original game follows a young racer Alex on a quest for revenge after the murder of his younger brother. It's a pretty bog standard story. So what did The Crew do to set itself aside from all the other racing games on the market? Quite simply, it revolutionised the open world racing game. It firstly did this through its Levolution style upgrades. The higher the rank, the better the part. But it also introduced these things called kits. Now these kits meant that each vehicle was suitable for different scenarios. I.e. the raid car was better for off-road and the circuit better for asphalt. Secondly, and most importantly, the map size was unreal. In a good way, of course. It was really big. It scaled down the whole of America and turned it into a game where you could literally get from the East Coast to the West Coast in around 20 minutes if you were absolutely gunning it. Usually it would take like maybe an hour if you actually abided speed limits, or maybe even 2. But it was a huge game. It was literally breathtaking. And finally, it had been the one and only modern racing game to actually have an enjoyable story. So now you're sort of up to speed. What do we actually expect from the sequel? Well, after the original quite literally used the whole of the USA, it would be a bit of a cop-out for Ubisoft to recycle that map and use it again. So what would be really cool, in my opinion, would be to be able to play in Australia. I think the whole of Australia would be quite easily better than the first game, from like the gorgeous beaches and the huge deserts to the wonderful cities that they have out in Australia. Like, what wouldn't be good about an Australia map? Other large nations such as Russia and China could be considered, but I don't think any of them would allow the variety that Australia actually has. Now, not much can be said for the story, and all I really hope is that Troy Baker does reprise his role of Alex in the sequel, perhaps taking a well-earned holiday after the avenging of his brother. Fitting a story could feel forced for Alex though, but allowing for a new character is obviously always an option. Now finally, let's really just talk about the cars. I mean, considering the game is mostly based around cars, I think we need a bit more variety. There was some absolute fan favourites from the first game, like the Nissan Skyline R34, the Murcielago Super Veloce, and in my personal favourite, the performance spec Ford Focus RS. I absolutely love that car. But the first game did lack a little bit, only having around 70 cars, and that may sound like a lot in today's day and age. But it really isn't when you actually look at what there was and the variety that you could get. But until some gameplay, hopefully to be seen at E3, comes out, we can't really make any judgment calls, although I am very, very excited for The Crew 2. So, moving swiftly on, let's talk about the Marmite of the gaming world, Assassin's Creed. You either love it or you hate it. Now, Assassin's Creed does not need any introduction at all. We've all heard of it, and now after the wild failure that was Syndicate, Ubisoft took a year out when it came to Assassin's Creed, one that I feel was much needed. The game just got very repetitive over recent years, and it needed a complete switch up and a new lick of paint. And that, my fellow members of the Brotherhood, is where Assassin's Creed Origins comes into the bigger picture. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins, currently the rumoured title of the 2017 release, is set to reboot the franchise, launching it back into the limelight. Origins is set to follow a completely new assassin on his or hers adventures in ancient Egypt, a setting I feel suits the game's roots. Whether it will succeed the original, it is a completely different kettle of fish. At the moment, very little is known about the game. All we've seen is an official announcement confirming a 2017 Assassin's Creed. So let's just put on the tinfoil hats and begin to speculate. I feel in order to succeed, the game needs to scrap the modern day element. The long running plot about the Animus is really beginning to wear thin, and to be quite frankly honest, no one really cares about Desmond and his story. all we ever cared about was Ezio and Altair. They were just the best. So although a key component to the game, I feel it does need to be scrapped and completely removed. Secondly, it needs to have good characters. Altair, Ezio, and I would even go as far as saying Edward Kenway were all wonderfully well-written characters. They were all great. They all had amazing personalities. They were funny and witty and whatnot. Whereas Jacob, Evie, Arno, and Connor from obviously Syndicate, Unity, and Assassin's Creed 3, on the other hand, were all pretty one-dimensional characters who weren't even that likable. Most of the time, you just thought they were annoying or petty, or Arno was really posh, and I didn't really like that. I didn't really think it felt like Assassin's Creed kind of thing. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins need a Nathan Drake-esque character, someone who is witty, charming, but also knows how to get shit done. If they succeed with the protagonist, then that opens the door to multiple sequels before having to change the time era and setting. Although realistically we all want and always have wanted a Japanese samurai Assassin's Creed, it just seems so perfect, but Ubisoft have never given it to us. Finally, the mechanics need a complete rework. Admittedly, back in the day, nothing was more fun than to parkour my way around Venice as a hooded vigilante. But after 9 games of endlessly jumping from building to building, the novelty soon wore off. Now, I'm not saying to scrap the freerunning, I'm simply saying make it more fluent and fun. But what is key is the animations. After pulling yourself up a ledge the exact same time, like 904 times in a row, it gets a little tedious. Although the fighting mechanics as well do need a very, very big rework and mainly to be brought up to date. Now, nothing makes me happier than a good fight with swords. I absolutely love the art of swordplay. It is incredible. But the other games have always felt clunky and unresponsive, so hopefully Ubisoft can just nail Assassin's Creed Origins. I mean, it only has taken them 9 attempts ever since sort of like the original 4 games. They've all been a little bit crap, to be quite honest. So, after all of this discussion, let's talk about what people really care about. Far Cry 5. After a very small set of teasers the other day, we learned that Far Cry 5 will be taking place in Montana. For those who don't know, Montana is a state in the USA, or more specifically, the fictional county called Hope County. I think this really suits the Far Cry series, as most of the games have been in tropical climates, so this allows for something a little more rural and western. And now, speaking of western, Far Cry 5 was actually rumoured to be a spaghetti western, very similar to Red Dead Redemption 2, but after seeing the teaser, you can actually make out that it's more likely to be modern day. So let's just quickly talk about what we can expect from Far Cry 5. Starting things off is the protagonist. Now, Far Cry has never had a dull main character, so what I feel is the biggest talking point is more the antagonists, or everyone's favourite psychopath, Vaas. Now, as much as I would love to see Vaas return to our gaming screens, it seems unlikely. After a very underwhelming death in the 3rd entry of the franchise, Vaas hasn't been referred to at all, until as of late, when recently Ubisoft tweeted an image of Vaas potentially teasing his return. Now, what I would like from Far Cry 5 would be Vaas's story. What made him a psychopath? Was it potentially a nasty upbringing in the county of Hope, Montana? That would make an excellent story if it allowed us to play as Vaas and learn how he is and why he is this psychopathic character. So secondly, let's just talk about time period. Now, this is going to get a little bit touchy for some people, but I feel like it needs to be addressed. If we really wanted to play as Vaas and learn about his upbringing, then we can assume from Far Cry 3 that he is probably around 35 to 40 years old. And Far Cry 3 takes place in the current day and was released in 2012. So if we wanted to play as a 20-year-old Vaas, we would hypothetically have to jump back to between 90 and 95, obviously 1990 and 1995. So this doesn't really allow for much difference compared to modern day, doesn't really allow much for imagination. But Far Cry is a game that does play strongly off of stereotypes, so the chances are that there will be some sort of racism involved. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit touchy, but maybe not a lot of racism. I mean, I don't agree with racism at all, but I mean there probably will be a few characters that play off of the stereotypes that Montana is a racist state. Now this could potentially play a big part in the story, or even be the switch to becoming a psychopath if Vaas is included, which hopefully he will be. I mean, come on, even if you haven't played Far Cry 3, you've heard somebody say, "Have I ever told you the definition of insanity?" That's an absolutely phenomenal line. But besides all that, I think a strong character and a good story are needed. Far Cry by any means does not need to change. It's always had solid map design, easy crafting skills, well-made skill trees, and most importantly, good mechanics. The Far Cry series is simply going to make another return to our screens, and I'm quite frankly very, very excited for it. So now the gameplay is all out of the way, we can come back to me, I guess you could say, and it also is just worth mentioning because it is Ubisoft. We are probably going to be expecting some kind of announcement about Rainbow Six Siege after the finals the other day, the Pro League. There was an announcement or some sort of hint that they were going to try making the game last for another few years. So I think at E3 we should expect to hear something about Rainbow Six Siege, potentially a year 3 season pass, potentially even year 3, 4 and 5 season pass, considering that Operation Health is all about making the longevity of the game last for a long time. They want the game's health to last for around 5 years, maybe even 10, depending on how well the game grows. But that has been my Ubisoft breakdown of their official announcement and what we can expect from E3. I hope you guys have all enjoyed, and remember to smash the thumbs up if you are A, happy with this video, and B, if you're excited for E3, or more specifically Ubisoft's announcement. Now if you did like this video, let me know in the comments if you would like to see another one, perhaps Naughty Dog, perhaps Activision, any kind of game developers that you guys want me to break down and have a look at official announcement, I would be more than happy to do. But until then guys, I will see you soon with a brand new video. Peace.